Hello everyone! I am going to try and split the videos up a little bit more this week based on some feedback I've had from you guys. Please remember, let me know at any point if there's anything I can do to make things easier, more accessible, better to understand. I'm always happy to take feedback if it helps your learning. Now, we're going to look at our next study theme, which is voting behaviour. Believe it or not, after this week, that's us halfway through our democracy unit. So we've made really, really good progress so far. I'm really proud of all of you for giving it your best go. What I'm going to explain in this video is a little bit about social class. For voting behaviour, we need to think about what influences people who vote, what makes them make those decisions and why. In your exam, as you'll see, there are 3 key areas you can absolutely be asked on, but there's also extra information that can add some knowledge points there as well. We won't get the whole voting behaviour stuff done before summer because I want to give you time for the debate. So the plan is we'll start it, we'll recap it a little bit in August and finish it off then as well. So as you can see your learning intention success criteria there, I'm going to trust you to pause the video if you need it. You're all grown-ups now to read through those, and you'll also have a copy of these slides to look at or download, remember. Exam questions that can come up. Evaluate the importance of social class as a factor influencing voting behaviour. Basically, that would be a 12 marker asking, how does your social class impact how you vote? Does it or does it not? The second one, to what extent are some factors more important than others? That is a 20 mark question. That one is asking you basically which factor is most important, but what are some of the other reasons that people make their decisions? So in that one, it might be, I think media is the most important factor. However, I would agree that social class and age can also matter. And the bottom one there, a 12 marker, analyse the influence of the media on voting behaviour. For that one, you are only discussing media. You're not talking about the other things we're going to go through. For this study theme, you need to know the impact of social class, of age, and of media. Those are the 3 that if you look at the SQA course specification, it will specifically state you need to be taught those 3. You need to know the impact of them all. How do they influence people? Well, they influence because this, but how actually do they not matter? They don't make a jot of difference. It's important that you know both of those. First things first though, I realise I've not shared this with you before. Now, some of you will have heard of left-wing and right-wing politics before. I'm going to be completely honest, it doesn't really exist. If you really want to get into the background of politics and political parties, it's actually a bit more like a circle. However, for the purpose of what we're doing, I do think this diagram is a really useful visual to help explain where the parties are next to each other. If you look at the left-hand side, you've got, for example, the Green Party, the Labour Party, the SNP would be around about the kind of Labour to Green area. You've got the yellow Liberal Democrats. You've then got Tory, so Conservatives, and UKIP on the far right. What you see in that picture is just a little description that the further to these sides they go, essentially the more extreme their views get. So if you were to go completely left-wing, and I mean not even Green Party are a dot on the horizon, you've gone so far left, you're almost back at the beginning. That would be communism. So that would be the idea effectively that you have a ruling government, but everybody shares everything, everyone shares resources, nobody's rich or poor, and it works perfectly. If you go to the extreme right, and I mean UKIP is not even on your radar, you are so far right. That is actually when you bring in fascism and being ruled by a dictator. Very extreme views. They are in power, deal with it. They have very specific values. We do tend to see in the extreme right, and I mean your examples here, a lot of racism and xenophobia. So it's really important. Most of our political parties are even this, so from the middle B to the R on Tory is probably centre. And that might sound silly, but a lot of people say now Conservatives are right of centre or Labour is left of centre. They're not extreme, usually, but they do lean towards one of these sides. So in this video, or future videos, if I discuss left and right-wing politics, that's kind of what we're talking about. Voting behaviour. What does this study theme actually mean? It's why do people vote? Is it just that it clicks one day like a light bulb, I'm going to vote for the SNP? Or have they gathered information? Have they watched TV, read newspapers, been on social media? Have they been in conversation? Have they been stopped in the street? Has someone canvassed? Has someone turned up at their door to ask them questions? Like I say, there's loads of reasons, and there's some on the red box on the right-hand side there. So where you stay, your gender, your employment status, your level of education, peer pressure, party alignment, response to the government if they've done a bad thing, government manifestos. A manifesto is a promise by a party. So if elected, I will do this. If elected, I will do this. You can use some of the other points, but in terms of revision and essay questions, you could get a general, to evaluate the impact on voting behaviour from various different areas. I worded that very badly. I do apologise. My ability to English is not going well today. What I meant to say is you could get a generic question that says, what are the reasons people vote the way they do? Wouldn't be worded that way because we know it's going to be evaluate, analyse, to what extent, or discuss. But if you're turning it into a question. However, you can also get a 20 marker on the media, a 12 or 20 marker on social class. We rarely see a 20 marker on age, but that doesn't mean it won't happen. What I mean by a 20 marker is, how we've done a 12 mark essay? Yeah, excellent. You needed 2 points, so 2 big paragraphs. For a 20 marker, you need 4. So as we're going through this, if you're taking notes listening to this, if you're doing the questions, you need to be able to have 4 things to say. Okay, some quick facts that might bring this in for you. If you're thinking about the impact of geography and where you stay, there is a massive north-south divide. Particularly if you look at Scottish elections or results, Scotland has a huge amount of SNP MPs, so the Scottish National Party, even though they're in Westminster and they can't argue for independence there, they have got a really huge following in Scotland. If you break it down to England only, there is a north-south divide based on a lot of history that's happened. Some of you might be aware that during the 1970s and 80s, there were a lot of miners' strikes under Margaret Thatcher. Not miners as in under 18s, miners as in the people who dig coal. At the time, Margaret Thatcher was closing all of the coal mines. They were nationalising a lot of things. A lot of people became unemployed. And as such, a lot of the north of England, a lot of people there have vowed that they would never vote Conservative because of the mess Conservatives left them in. So they tend to lean more towards Labour. It doesn't mean everybody, but there are groups there who go, because of what they did in the 1980s, I will never vote for them, and I will tell my children never to vote for them. We also see a rural-urban divide. Depending if you live in a rich, well-built-up area, you might be more likely to vote for a Conservative Party. If you live in a poverty-stricken area, you might be more likely to vote Labour, SNP, Lib Dem. So there is a link there, but it's not 100% accurate. The graph on the right-hand side is showing you gender. Now, this is from a YouGov poll. You can see at the bottom. What I will say as well is in these slides, if I've used pictures, I've included the link to all of the websites they're on, so that if you're interested or you need to look at this a little bit more, you will have the link to access this. YouGov is a very reliable source. They are an impartial group. Their job is to analyse data, to conduct surveys, and to find out information. So they're very reliable. What we see here is gender actually only really plays a part in those up to the age of 24. After that, those over 25, it's within kind of 5%. But if we look at men and women, there is a huge gap. That's about 20 percentage points there, because you've got men, roughly 46% voted Labour, compared to 65% of women. In terms of Conservatives, men, about 28% of men voted Conservative, compared to 15% of women. So that's a 13-point difference. That is significant. The reason we know that is significant is because it's a big jump. If you look at the others, it's 1, 2, 5 points kind of maximum. That could be easily swayed. 19, 20 points is making an impact. Have a think. Why would women in the 18 to 24 category be more likely to vote for Labour than Conservative? Pause the video and have a little think, thinking about things such as, what do the Labour Party stand for? What are they more likely to make laws on or protect? And what about Conservatives? So pause the video now, otherwise I'm going to give you the answer. One of the reasons that this tends to happen is younger women are more likely to be thinking about things such as women's rights, maternity leave, having access to care, they maybe are carers at home for elderly or children. Yes, we are seeing more women in older age groups have family, but it is more on the mind of a young woman, okay? So it is more, they tend to think or plan their future that little bit more. The Labour Party are very much on maternity leave, equal leave as well for parents. The Conservatives do support a basic maternity leave, but they also are very much about getting people back into work. So it's important to understand the difference between those. I'm now going to talk a little bit about what is social class. Some of you will have done this with me before. If you think back to third year when we were playing Monopoly, we were doing this. However, I'm going to go over it and ensure everyone is on the same level. So if you've not done this before, don't panic. I will give you everything that you need to know. For the purposes of your higher modern studies, these are the categories we are going to use. It's based on the NRS and it's been used for over 50 years. This is what Parliament UK use if they're writing reports and mentioning social class. It is purely based on your job. So are you high managerial? Are you low skilled? Are you unemployed? We know this is flawed. And what I'm about to show you is a new version that I just want you to consider, because it could be points you raise in an essay about how accurate is how we describe social class. If how we describe social class is out of date and how we use that in a survey is out of date, how do we know our results are accurate to say, oh, all of social class A vote Conservative? Well, how do you know they are all social class A? All of social class E vote Labour. Okay, but are they actually in category E, or should they be category D? Because that would make a huge difference to our results. But this is the one we still use. It is okay to write about this in essays. What this means is you've got A class, upper middle, professional occupations, for example, an accountant or a doctor. You tend to need to have letters before or after your name. So a doctor obviously is doctor, but they all have MB Chem or something like that. An accountant quite often will have some letters depending on the registered body they're with. You then have B, middle class, intermediate, so teacher, police officer, still quite qualified, have had to undergo specific training. Quite often when you're writing an essay, you'll be able to group this together. So you'll be able to say, for example, social class A/B or social class D/E. So don't feel you've got to remember every single one of these. If even you group them, go, oh, A1 and B's here, C1, C2's here, DE's here. That's not a problem. You've got C1, the lower middle, clerical work, admin, secretaries, a little bit of skill, but they haven't had to go and do a whole qualification to do the job. C2, you're skilled working, manual jobs, electrician, joiner, builder, good with their hands, have a lot of knowledge. D, you have working, posties, others that have skills or require things. And on E, you've got the low skills or those unemployed or on benefits. I should also say here, those that are retired are technically classed as social class E. Again, if you're doing a survey asking how people voted, if you asked all retired people how they voted, it wouldn't be the same, would it? And would they all be social class E? No. You've got some very, very wealthy retired people who have retired at age 50, have 3 homes around the world, have a really, really comfortable lifestyle. They're not really social class E. They would be A or B. However, because on paper they're retired, for a survey they'd be classed as E. I'm hoping this makes sense what I'm saying in terms of, it not being accurate data. Back in 2011, there was a bit of a campaign to try and change the 7 to 7 social classes. What the researchers who devised this said was, it's not enough nowadays in the 21st century to base your social class 100% on your job. Because actually your social class should be determined by everything else. So you, in terms of your own economy, okay, you've got your job and you've got your salary, but how much savings have you got? It might be you've inherited a lot of money. Well, if you're a labourer, you're probably not in social class E if you've got £100,000 sitting from inheritance in your bank. So it needs to come from that owning houses, owning holiday homes, homes that you rent out, things like that. It should also come from cultural activities. There is a very big difference between someone going down to their local pub on a Friday night, like typical old-fashioned pub, and someone deciding to go out to the theatre and a 3-course meal. I know sometimes we don't all do this, but we'd like to because we don't have money. That's kind of the point of including it here. If someone can afford to go to the theatre every single week, that's going to suggest, well, culturally, they're actually quite high. So maybe their social class should be a little bit higher than we think. And their social group as well, who they know. If you're mingling with all the A-list celebrities, you're pretty much not going to be in class E, are you? Probably not. So this was what they suggested here: the elite, established middle, technical middle, new affluent, traditional working, emergent services, and the precariat. This hasn't really taken off, but they are having discussions around what our social class is or should be. I'm going to stop this video here. I'm going to stop recording. If you want to go straight on to do all the social class questions, I'll upload a second video that you can join in. This is where we're going to talk about the impact of social class. However, you should have enough to do the first few questions all about social class. So just breaking it up to make that a little bit easier for you.